Okay, I need you to forget everything you think you know about Venezuela. This isn't just another story about a failed state. No, it's something way stranger, and honestly, way more terrifying. It's a shocking paradox, a country that completely collapsed, but is somehow still walking, still functioning, and it's all fueled by dark secrets we are about to drag into the light.
I mean, just think about this central question for a second. It just doesn't make any sense, right? How can a country where millions have literally fled starvation also have neighborhoods packed with luxury boutiques, imported champagne, and Ferraris? This isn't just some economic puzzle. It's a warning sign that something deeply disturbing is happening right under the surface.
And this is the image we all remember. This is ground zero. Money that was literally worth less than the paper it was printed on, being swept into the gutter like garbage. This was the result of a completely mind-shattering 130,000% hyperinflation back in 2018. This is total, absolute collapse. Burn this image into your mind, because it makes what's happening now even more unbelievable.
And yet, you're not going to believe this. This is what you see in the wealthy parts of Caracas today. High-end electronics, imported champagne, bodegas stacked to the ceiling with Nutella, luxury shops. They call it the Caracas Bubble. It's a complete mirage of wealth that, frankly, is an insult to the reality most of the country is living through.
So what on earth is going on? How is this even possible? Let me be clear, this is not a recovery. It is a dangerously fragile and wildly unequal stabilization. And it's all built on a secret. So let's peel back the first layer of this whole insane story.
The secret is green. It's the US dollar. In a twist you just can't make up, the fiercely anti-American government of Nicolas Maduro quietly let the dollar take over. They had no choice. It was a desperate, last-ditch move to pull the economy out of a death spiral.
And the dollar's takeover has been staggering. I mean, look at this. Over 60% of all transactions are now happening in greenbacks. The old currency, the bolivar, it's basically monopoly money at this point for anyone trying to buy something of actual value.
But here's where it gets really ugly. This hasn't saved Venezuela. It has split it in two. There's a tiny, well-connected elite who have access to these dollars, and they get to live inside that luxury bubble. And then there's everyone else. Over 80% of the population, trapped in crushing poverty, completely locked out of this new dollarized world.
And let's not get desensitized to the sheer scale of the disaster we're talking about here. This wasn't a bad recession. This was, and I quote, the single largest economic collapse of a nation outside of wartime in modern history. Nothing else even comes close.
The numbers are just hard to comprehend. A 75% contraction of the entire economy. Imagine 3/4 of your country's entire economic engine just gone, vanished into thin air.
And that number again, 130,000%. This wasn't economics. It was a monetary apocalypse. It's the chaos that leads to people sweeping their life savings out of their doorway like dust. Okay, so this brings us to the billion-dollar question. If the state oil company is a complete wreck and international sanctions have choked off all the legal money, where are the actual dollars that are fueling this luxury bubble coming from? The answer? Well, it takes us into the dark, criminal heart of Venezuela's new economy. This is where our investigation goes into truly terrifying territory. Because the money isn't coming from oil anymore. It's being clawed from the earth. It's coming from a violent, illegal shadow economy, and its currency is gold. Blood gold. Welcome to the Arco Minero, the mining arc. It's this huge, sprawling, basically lawless territory deep in the Venezuelan Amazon. Think of it like a new Wild West, but way more brutal. It's packed with minerals, and it has become the regime's secret, off-the-books ATM.
And this is how they do it. The entire criminal operation, laid bare. Step 1. Criminal gangs and corrupt military officials seize control of the mines. Step 2. That gold is literally torn from the earth under the most horrific, violent conditions imaginable. Step 3. It's smuggled out of the country on private jets to allied nations. And finally, Step 4. The gold gets laundered into clean, hard cash, the very dollars that keep the Caracas bubble inflated, all while completely evading international sanctions.
But this shadow economy, this desperate, constant need for cash at any cost, it isn't enough, and it's now pushing the regime to make an incredibly dangerous, incredibly reckless move on the world stage. The stakes are about to get so much higher.
This desperation has now become a geopolitical time bomb, just waiting to go off. Because when the illicit gold isn't enough,
The regime is going back to what it knows best: oil. The only problem? This time, it's oil that belongs to somebody else.
So what did they do? Venezuela suddenly revived a century-old border claim on its smaller neighbor, Guyana. And look at this map. We're not talking about a small border dispute. They are claiming 2/3 of the entire country. And what a coincidence. This is happening right after massive, world-changing offshore oil fields were just discovered right there.
So you have this perfect storm brewing. On one side, you have Venezuela, using this old claim to whip up nationalism and distract from the nightmare at home. On the other side, you have Guyana, which is suddenly the world's fastest-growing economy because of these oil discoveries. This is a classic resource grab, plain and simple, just dressed up in historical grievance.
And here's why this should terrify everyone. A war here would not stay local. It would instantly become a global flashpoint. You'd have the US and Western oil interests backing Guyana, and then you'd have Venezuela's allies. We're talking Russia, China, and Iran jumping at the chance to stir up trouble right in America's backyard.
So you put all of these horrifying pieces together: the fake luxury bubble built on dollars, the shadow economy fueled by blood gold, and this looming threat of a resource war, and you finally see the whole picture.
It's a zombie economy. The Venezuelan state, for all intents and purposes, has died. But it keeps lurching forward, animated by this dark, chaotic energy of criminal enterprise and iron-fisted control. This isn't socialism. It's something else. Some new, dangerous form of gangster capitalism built on top of the ruins of a nation.
And while we talk about gold and geopolitics, we can never, ever forget the real cost. 7.7 million. That is the number of human beings, of Venezuelans, who have been forced to flee their country. It is one of the largest migration crises on the planet. They are the true victims of this zombie state.
This whole bizarre, terrifying system seems stable. For now, at least for the tiny few at the very top. But it leaves us with one final, chilling question. This entire shadow system is just a temporary fix, a desperate patch on a sinking ship. So what happens when the easy-to-reach gold runs out? Or when the gamble for Guyana's oil fails? What does a zombie do when it can no longer feed?